Good
Uhuru,
morning.
comrades, and welcome everyone. Welcome to the School for the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. My name is Lisa Davis. I happen to be the vice chair, and I will be the moderator today for this very important school. I want to again open up with what I always say, that I don't have to tell you in terms of the times we are facing, the times we are looking at. And we, each one of us, must take responsibility for the times that we live in the world that we live in, and most importantly, for changing it, We have been sold a horrible bill of goods and told things. So much of our people have been told, oh, vote for the Democrats or vote for the Republicans. That's the only thing you can do. And voting for the lesser of two evils, which has just been a horrible, horrible ideology for our people to follow at all. And we can see that it has not advanced us in the least. But we have always been our own liberators. And this is what makes the work of the Black is Back Coalition so important. And especially now, since we can clearly see this, we've been in existence approximately 20 years, and this electoral campaign school has been in existence 10 years at least. So you are going to hear a lot of very excellent information and strategy, and that is really making a difference. It is truly making a difference. And we can't tell you how much we appreciate each and every one of you who are in the room with us, who are participating, and certainly those who are watching. We appreciate you so much. The times are serious, and it requires for us to also elevate our game and elevate our understanding as well. And the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations plans to be there to do that with you, for you, right by your side, for our community, because the trajectory in which things have been going is not working for us. And we are closer to a nuclear war than we should ever want to be, a nuclear confrontation. And there are so many other things that are going on, which you will also hear from. So again, I welcome everyone. We welcome everyone. The Black is Back Coalition is proud to be here. And I'm so proud to have a coalition such as this, which is based on a very strong and correct political ideology based on the glorious legacy of the Black liberation struggle, and we're also boots on the ground. So again, I just want to welcome everyone, and we're going to open up with our very powerful African Nation fight song. Uhuru, engineer.
Israel to we Africa, we are winning. Shout Uhuru for Africa. Patrice Lumumba's life won't be in vain. We are winning. Keep up the work in Marcus Garvey's name. We are winning. Independent and free is what we will be. We are winning. Africa will bask in our victory. We are winning. Long live the liberation of our African nation. Freedom to organization. Socialist world, our creation. 1 billion strong, yes, we are one. We are winning.
Uhuru. Can I be heard just to let people know I'm having trouble with my computer. It jammed on me, so I had to get off, and now I'm on my phone, but hopefully I can get back onto my computer. So thank you so much for that powerful African Nation fight song. And now we will have an introduction of the steering committee, because nothing happens without the work of the people and without this powerful steering committee. So thank you, engineer. Okay, slide. Okay, first we're going to introduce you to the coordinating committee of the steering committee. Slide. And we have our powerful chairman, Omali Yeshitela, who is the chair of the Black is Back Coalition, as well as the chair of the African People's Socialist Party. Slide. And then the next person is myself, Lisa Davis, and I happen to be the vice chair and also the chair of the Healthcare Working Group and of the Political Action Working Group. Slide. And next we have Brother Nkululeko, Sechaba, and he is the outreach coordinator. Slide. And Sister Ikenge Mayeli, and I just call her our everyday person. She's one of our coordinators, and she also works very closely with the chair, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. Slide. And now for the rest of the steering committee members. We have Brother Dr. Maximella Oldham, and he is the chair of the Black Community Controller Police Working Group. We have Sister Betty Davis. She's with the New Abolitionist Movement, and she's the chair of the Black Community Control of Education Working Group. Slide. And Brother Emmanuel McCoo, he is the international president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, as well as the chair of the Youth and Student Working Group of the Black is Back Coalition. Slide. And Brother Dawood Khalik, he is the chair of the Reparations Working Group. Slide. And Sister Belinda Parker Brown of Louisiana United International. Slide. And Reverend Edward Pinkney, he is with the Black Autonomy Network Community Organization known as BANCO. Slide. And Brother Jihad Adumamet, he's with the Jericho Movement. Slide. And Sister Yejide Oronmila, she's with the African National Women's Organization known as ANWO. Slide. And Brother Life Malcolm with the Black People's Advancement and Defense Organization. Slide. Brother Zakiba Ruti, President General of the Universal African People's Organization known as WAPO. Slide. And we have the Joko Collective, which are comprised of Tasha Thomas, Youssef, oh my gosh, I cannot see so well, and Jamila Feemster. Youssef Imhotep, the Joko Collective. Slide. And Sister Amanda Wallace of Operation Stop CPS, slide. And Brother Paul Pumphrey, he is co-founder of Friends of the Congo, slide. And Robert Ward Williams, he is the chairman of the Black Panther Party, San Diego, slide. And Brother Cam Howard of Reparations United, slide. Okay, so that is the Black is Back Steering Committee, slide. And also, we always want to remember those who worked so hard within our coalition and who have transitioned onward. Long live Brother Glenn Ford. He was one of the co-founders of the Black is Back Coalition and also the Black Agenda Report. Slide. Brother Ralph Pointer, long live. He was with the Lynn Stewart organization and he worked very hard with freeing all political prisoners. Slide. Long live Dr. Zena Crenshaw Logo. She was with Louisiana United International. Slide. And Brother Sayero Knowles, Dennis Sayero Knowles, long live Brother Sayero. Slide. Are we at the end of the presentation? So everyone, that is the powerful Black is Back Steering Committee. And we certainly want people to be joining the Black is Back Coalition and to certainly have the members of our steering committee grow as well. So our next presentation is going to be on the history of the Electoral Campaign School. And Brother Tech Person Kabula, if you could also run that as well. I had planned to do it, but my computer right now is acting up. So I've got to start with that. So again, we have this very important history of the Electoral Campaign School. And I want to first start out giving you a little bit of a preliminary history. Because in 1982, the African People's Socialist Party, under the leadership of our current chairman, Omali Yeshitela, had decided that they were going to have their first ever international tribunal on reparations. And one of the reasons they wanted to do that was to make reparations a household name for the everyday worker, for everyday people. And so they had that very successful tribunal in 1982. Slide. And with the advent of Barack Hussein Obama, the Black is Back Coalition was founded in 2009 in response to Barack Hussein Obama's election. The coalition recognized this as a new weapon in the colonization of African and other oppressed people as a Black person became the new face of U.S. imperialism. Slide. And in 2016, so the Black is Back Coalition was founded in 2009, but in 2016, we began to really see the importance of establishing an electoral campaign school in which we would be putting our political agenda for self-determination on the agenda, make it part of the political campaign. And on April 11th in Harlem, New York, the BIBC had a conference around the 2016 elections and the struggle for Black self-determination. Slide. And throughout 2016, we worked on putting together an agenda for Black self-determination. That agenda later came to be called the Black is Back 19-point platform. Slide. And on August 13th and 14th in 2016, the BIBC held an historic conference in Philadelphia to put forward the 19-point platform on our own national platform for Black self-determination. Slide. And upon completion of the 19-point platform, local conferences were held all throughout the country, to win unity from the African community and to have them adopt the 19-point platform. Conferences were held in New York, Newark, Philadelphia, St. Petersburg, Kansas City, DC, Maryland, Chicago, and Houston, Texas. Slide. The first official electoral campaign school launched in April of 2017 in St. Petersburg. And any candidate seeking the endorsement of the Black is Back coalition would have to unite and adopt all of the 19-point platforms in its entirety. Slide. At the first electoral campaign school, it was announced that the BIBC would endorse Comrades Akili and Naive for city council in St. Petersburg and Jesse Neville for mayor of Florida. They were running on a platform of reparations for the Black community. And we also endorsed other candidates that year as well. Slide. Jesse Neville and Akili Anai's campaign marked the first time that a campaign was run with reparations as a central theme of its platform. Reparations to the Black community as a central theme in St. Petersburg. And although they did not win, their campaign was extremely successful. It forced local candidates to discuss issues they did not want to deal with, which caused their campaigns to go viral, and to garner international attention. Slide. One of the viral moments that happened was when Paul Kangemi made the odious statement that your people already got their reparations via Barack Obama and that you could get back on the next plane to Africa. His statement went viral and brought national attention to reparations and to their campaign platform. And it appeared in USA Today, Business Insider, The Washington Post, the New York Daily News, Essence Magazine, and more. Slide. And their campaign was so effective that it forced the former president, Barack Obama, to come into St. Petersburg from wherever he was to endorse the incumbent mayor, Rick Kreisman, who had badly fallen in the polls. Slide. And at the second campaign school, it was held in April of 2018 with the goal to teach ordinary African people, workers, activists, women, youth alike, how to run for office as well and how to conduct recalls, referendums, and ballot initiatives. And this was a person, Wanda Carson, that we endorsed. Slide. In 2019, the third Black is Back electoral school was held April 6th and 7th in St. Petersburg, Florida. And in this school, comrades deepened their understanding and commitments to the national Black political agenda for self-determination. Slide. The fourth campaign school happened during COVID-19, and we had endorsed Jachawa Masimba and Herdosha Kalambayi Benton, students of the Black is Back electoral campaign school, and for Black self-determination. Slide. Our fifth electoral campaign school was held on April 10th and 11th, and that period demanded that we be able to redefine the struggle as only we could do it. Slide. The sixth electoral campaign school, beyond the colonizers' coup to Africa, beyond the colonizers' coup to African self-determination, happened in the midst of the defensive war being waged by Russia and Ukraine. It was the BIBC that asserted that the US's attempt to use its Ukrainian war against Russia as a means of uniting the politically fractured colonial population of the US, or to support a broken US presidency. Slide. School number 7 was themed The Ballot and the Bullet, Anti-Colonial Struggle for Democracy, highlighting the government attacks and our right to participate in the electoral arena without fear of life, limb, or livelihood, exposing the rigged elections that continue to take place under American democracy. Slide. And in the year 2024, called for Black liberation to be put on the ballot, called on the masses of people who were all registered, to the Democratic Party to vote uncommitted. The Democratic money demands money spent on Israel and Ukraine. Oh, and to demand that money spent on Israel and Ukraine go to the African community as reparations and an immediate end to the genocide and occupation of Palestine, and to drop the charges against the Uhuru 3. Slide. For 9 years, the Black is Back Coalition's Electoral Campaign School has been steadfast in challenging the corrupt, poisonous, and deadly two-party duopoly track that seeks to take the Black community into the gutter with them. We have endorsed numerous candidates such as Chokwe Lumumba, Charles and Inez Barron, Jesse Todd, Jesse Neville, Akili Anai, Tashara Masimba, Columba Antoinette, Carla Coffey Wright, Denise Harris, Ann Hirsch, Betsy Mitchell, and more. Slide. And our influence has been felt tremendously after Jesse Neville and Akile ran their campaign and boldly put reparations at the center of their campaign platform. They forever changed the election landscape on that issue. Marianne Williamson, right after their campaign in the next national election for president, Marianne Williamson decided to run in 2022 to make reparations for African people a major part of her platform. Slide. The ruthless, baseless government attack that was launched on the leadership of our organization and our comrades shows how much the work of the Uhuru movement was challenging this system in ways the government could not tolerate. The Electoral Campaign School played a pertinent role in the decision for the government's attack, as the DOJ repeatedly accused our comrades of tampering with elections. But in spite of the attacks from the US government, we were relentless. We never retreated, and we continued with this Electoral Campaign School. We didn't miss a beat, and we stood fast with the Uhuru 3 and 1. Slide. And this weekend, during our 10th Electoral Campaign School, we're going to hear updates about the case of the Uhuru 3 and where we stand with that. And we're going to hear updates from so many more people as well. And I just want to also bring out something I think is very important, that all during the year of 2016, we talked about the need for this Electoral Campaign School and to raise progressive, radical candidates, and to have this school to teach people how to run for office who were truly progressive. And in 2017, call this a coincidence or not, but at the beginning of 2017 was when the Democrats came up with the Justice Democrats. And we see that's how we got AOC and the so-called squad. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I just think this goes to show the power of the work that we are doing. We should never underestimate that. And Uhuru. So next, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our chairman and co-founder and one of the most brilliant strategists of our time, Omali Yeshitela. He is the chair of the African Socialist International and the African People's Socialist Party and the Black is Back Coalition. From the day he tore down the racist mural from City Hall in St. Petersburg, Florida in 1966, Chairman Yeshitela has never stopped fighting for liberation for African people everywhere. In the heat of revolutionary struggle and during years in prison for his political work, Chairman Omali developed the theory of African internationalism that understands the world through the eyes of the African working class. In 1968, Chairman Yeshitela founded the Burning Spear newspaper, which is still published today. The chairman has authored numerous articles, pamphlets, and books. He has led countless campaigns in the name of the African working class, including the Community Controlled Housing Initiative that won 22,000 votes in Oakland, California in 1984. And the campaign that freed Jessie Woods, an African woman in prison for killing a white attempted rapist with his own gun. So the chairman, he has founded the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement in 1991 as a revolutionary mass organization to defend the democratic rights of the African working class. The party also launched the Black Star Industries, bringing all of the economic development institutions of the party under one umbrella, creating partnerships with community members. And today, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, as the leader of the African Socialist International, speaks to its growing base around the world and leads the worldwide movement for the liberation of African people everywhere. And they also have started another tremendous project, the Blueprint for Black Power. It is always an honor to present our chairman, Omali Yeshitela. Uhuru!
Uhuru! Uhuru! You want me to come there? I can. All right, thank you so much, Comrade Sister Vice Chair. I want to express my appreciation to you for the introduction, and I want to just comment on the significance of this extraordinary steering committee of the Black is Back Coalition. As you know, Comrade Sister Vice Chair, among the steering committee members, the different organizations who have come into the coalition, the leadership of those organizations automatically have become a part of the steering committee. And in the room where I am right now, there are various members of the steering committee. Comrade Zaki Baruti, the President General of the Universal African Peoples Organization, is here, along with Comrade Emmanuel Maku, who heads the Student Youth Working Group, and Comrade Kabula, also here. So I wanted to express my appreciation and to all of the people who are on participating in this meeting on today, this study, this school that we're doing. And I wanted to also, we listed the names of some comrades who have passed, who were really important for our coalition. And I was thinking, even as we went through part of the history of the coalition, and specifically the 2016 event that the coalition sponsored in Harlem, New York, which is when the first time we met Comrade Khalid Rahim. He played just a really important role in the coalition. And although he withdrew from the steering committee a few years ago, for the time that he did not withdraw from the coalition itself. And he played a really important role, and his organization continues to play an important role in the struggle for self-determination right now. So I wanted to make that kind of acknowledgement. And what I'm going to do at this moment is present what was the call that we made for you and other people throughout the world to come in and participate in this 10th annual Black is Back electoral campaign school. I also wanted to acknowledge the comrades out from other areas of the world. I know that Comrade Abui from Spain just recently saw a video showing me a while ago, or a year ago. In fact, 2 days, a year ago, 2 days, a year ago, 2 days ago, I endured surgery that removed the bottom third of my right lung. And some people had an opportunity to see some videos of me, particularly from that time. And I see them and it makes my flesh crawl. So it made some people really nervous. And Comrade Abui from Spain apparently just saw it. And so he's been calling around to various forces who are in our movement, trying to find out what my situation is. And I want to say that anybody who's in touch with Abui, I haven't been successful in returning his call. He should know that I'm well. So this is the call that we presented. And it's a call that spoke to and speaks to the urgency of this moment, that's highlighted for many people by the April 29th, I think it was, US Supreme Court gutting of the Voting Rights Act. And is Comrade King still here? Did she leave? Okay. Can you remind her that she should do something with this air? I don't know if anybody else has experienced it, but it's warm here. It's warm here. And I know for some people, because many of the people who are from the African community and many liberals have been pushed into a situation of assuming that the only venue that we have for advancing our struggle has been the electoral process. And so for them, the gutting of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 is like a really critical issue. And so I think that's one of the things that gives urgency to this discussion, this school that we're having on today. So I'm going to read the call. And the ballot and the bullet is the whole damn system. We're not going back. And so this is the call, and it says on Wednesday, April 29, 2026, the U.S. Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that ostensibly allowed us to advance our freedom struggle through voting within the U.S. colonial electoral system. Before this U.S. Supreme Court ruling, previous attacks on our freedom struggle were characterized by generalized terror against our people. This included mass celebratory murder with thousands of white participants who often competed with each other for souvenir body parts of burned, hanged, and shot to death corpses of Black people. The recently gutted 1965 Voting Rights Act did not come about because of some socially transformative epiphany on the part of colonial oppressors. It was an act that was designed to give enhanced, politically expedient legitimacy to the Civil Rights Bill that was passed in 1964, despite serious opposition by many, including former Democratic Party U.S. President Joseph Robinette Biden. We uphold the role of our people's heroic struggle that were key to winning the passage of these acts. Their enactment allowed the United States to claim that our people were protected by the so-called Bill of Rights that was actually ratified by the U.S. Congress when we were still considered property, with no more rights than horses, cows, shoes, chairs, or any other property owned by the white colonizers. In 1857, the case of Dred and Harriet Scott, 65 years after ratification of the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Supreme Court at that time confirmed that we had no rights that a white man had to respect. However, the colonizers' denial of rights has never stopped our struggle against colonialism. Colonialism, by definition, means denial of any rights not conferred on the colonized by the colonizers. Indeed, it has always been colonialism itself that defined our struggle and made our struggle necessary. It was our unrelenting freedom struggle at the time that made the 1965 Voting Rights Act necessary for our colonizers, and it is fear of our freedom struggle today that is responsible for the negation of the Voting Rights Act of 2026. In 1964, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, launched the Mississippi Summer Project as a voter registration campaign to advance our struggle, especially in the state of Mississippi. This campaign resulted in the brutal, highly publicized murder of 3 young civil rights workers at the SNCC-led 1964 Voting Summer Project, forcing to the surface the ubiquity of the reality of colonial violence against African people. These notorious violent murders undermined the U.S. attempts to market itself as the beacon of democracy in a world that was globally engaged in intense struggle to define the contours of the emergent anti-colonial social system. On February 4th, 1965, 17 days before his assassination, and less than a month prior to Bloody Sunday and the infamous colonial assault on peaceful voting rights protesters on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Alabama, Minister Malcolm X accepted an invitation by the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee to come to Selma, Alabama. When Malcolm X visited Selma, Dr. King was in jail, so he met with his wife, Coretta Scott King, and conveyed to her his intention to work with King and unite 2 fronts of the struggle against colonialism, something the U.S. government, domestic colonizers found absolutely unacceptable. His visit to Selma and the unity offered by Minister Malcolm X confirmed that we are engaged in one liberation struggle directed against colonialism. It helped to show that our struggle against colonialism, that in our struggle against colonialism, the Voting Rights Act, as important as it was, has always been about more than just voting. It was about Black liberation and the possible use of the vote as an instrument to advance our freedom struggle against U.S. domestic colonialism. An objective of the 1965 assassination of Minister Malcolm X in the same year as the passage of the Voting Rights Act, as well as the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. just 3 years later, was to undermine the possibility of the politics of anti-colonial liberation entering the domain of electoral politics in the United States. The murders of our leaders by the U.S. government aimed to restrict our anti-colonial freedom efforts to the counter-revolutionary restraints of the Democratic Party of the colonial ruling class. Our oppressors were intent on preventing Malcolm X's political program of Black nationalism and King's Poor People's Campaign, reflecting our people's politics of self-determination from ever acquiring the presumed legitimacy of the colonial electoral process. This chilling colonial state violence thereby relegated anti-colonial politics to a state of illegitimacy and by inference illegality. But our freedom struggle against colonialism was never determined by U.S. colonial legality, not then, not now. One of the most significant ideological, political, and organizational expressions of the anti-colonial definition of our struggle leading to the creation of the Voting Rights Act was the 1962 founding of the Revolutionary Action Movement, RAM, that had an outside, though little recognized impact on our fight against U.S. domestic colonialism and its international implications. The 1965 creation of the original Black Panther Party, the Lowndes County Freedom Organization of Alabama, advanced our electoral struggle beyond the restraints and restriction of electoral politic participation within the colonial Democratic Party. The growth of our anti-colonial movement was further exemplified by the 1966 Black Power movement initiated by SNCC that was itself influenced by the Vine City Project in Atlanta in 1964 at the time when the Mississippi Summer Project was raging. The 1966 founding of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in Oakland, California took the symbol of the Lowndes County Freedom Organization and advanced our struggle beyond the confines of the colonial electoral process altogether. The first Black Power direct action event that was a mass demonstration in 1966 in St. Petersburg, Florida, at the St. Petersburg, Florida City Hall, where demonstrators removed an 8 by 10 foot racialized caricature of African people from its wall. The St. Petersburg, Florida action was followed in 1967, something like about 4 months later, by an armed demonstration by the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in the chambers of the California State Capitol in Sacramento. In 1968, the Revolutionary Union Movement was formed in Detroit, Michigan. On May 4th, 1969, SNCC's Director of International Affairs, James Foreman, disrupted services at the historic Riverside Church, where Dr. Martin Luther King had made a provocative speech just a year earlier. Foreman presented to a startled and angry preacher and congregation a Black manifesto that demanded churches and synagogues in the U.S. pay $500 million in reparations to African people. It was a manifesto that had been adopted by the National Black Economic Conference in Detroit a week earlier. All these historic actions provided ample evidence that despite the desperate repression of a hostile anti-Black colonial state, we have always fought for our total liberation, happiness, dignity, and the return of all the human and material resources stolen from us. Thus, the name of our coalition, the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations. It is a coalition that has successfully taken upon itself the responsibility to reunite and give coherence to our relentless fight for self-determination that we have defined as the highest expression of democracy. Thus, the significance of our 10th annual electoral campaign school is that it takes the mystery out of the electoral politics and destroys the monopoly of the electoral process by outright colonialists and their neo-colonial minions in our midst. The Black is Back campaign school pushes back against all efforts to limit our struggle to simple voting rights at the expense of the historical freedom movement for total liberation. It is with urgency that we call you to join with us on June 6th and 7th, 2026, despite and because of the Supreme Court's latest ruling gutting the 1965 Voting Rights Act based on the self-created colonial illusion that in so doing, our struggle for total liberation of our people would be destroyed. But we are still here. This is why the U.S. government found it necessary to initiate pre-dawn military-style attacks on our movement and coalition chair, Omali Yeshitela, in 2 cities and states in St. Petersburg, Florida, and St. Louis, Missouri. These attacks did not result in the wished-for defeat of our movement. Instead, we have grown by leaps and bounds, making it necessary for the unprecedented attack by the colonizers within its own community. Thus, because of the strategic reach of our anti-colonial movement, the U.S. also indicted 2 white people, Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, who, along with Chairman Omali Yeshitela, became known as the Uhuru Three. When the U.S. colonizers attacked our freedom struggle in the past, they did not find it necessary to defend their position in their own white colonizer communities. The murders of anti-colonialists like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., or Fred Hampton are among the glaring examples of the unhampered impunity of the U.S. colonizers to attack our struggle against U.S. domestic colonialism with the apparent support of the general white colonizer population. The fact is that there has been an assortment of anti-colonial organizations representing a gamut of tendencies since the era of the Voting Rights Act. These anti-colonial organizations were often in contention with each other in their separate drives to capture the leadership of the general anti-colonial movement. They have included so-called Black Muslims, Pan-Africanists, New Africanists, African internationalists, and various causes without clear ideological or theoretical identities except for opposition to U.S. domestic colonialism. Now the Black is Back Coalition has created an organization of nearly 20 organizations that unites all our anti-colonial trajectory and on a coherent anti-colonial mission. We have reopened the door to the electoral arena in a manner that takes us forward in the fight against colonialism without surrendering to the Democratic Party or the limitations imposed on political participation restricted to colonial approval. This is a call for you to join the 10th Annual Black is Back Electoral Campaign School to recapture the political space the colonizers attempted to deny us with their assassinations of Minister Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Fred Hampton, and the targeted arrest and imprisonment of our militants during the Black Liberation Movement of the 60s. We have not surrendered. We are relentless. Join us in St. Louis, Missouri for the 10th Annual Electoral Campaign School, June 6, 7, 2026. It's not just Trump. It's the whole damn system, this time till it's won, power in our own hands. Uhuru. So, we have about 3 minutes, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is it 3 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
4 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes. So I want to just go ahead and open it up briefly to see if there are any comments that could be made about the call, which represents the overview for this this school that we're having today. If yeah, Uhuru.
Uhuru, I want to first express my appreciation for the call. I think the call should be printed in pamphlet form and distributed throughout the communities in the world and stuff like that. It's a really powerful call, and it sums everything up perfectly.
Uhuru. Anybody else? Comrade Zaki, President General Zaki Baruti.
Uhuru.
Uhuru, how you doing?
Uhuru, I
Okay.
just echo my good comrade remarks. The opening statement was powerful, and it's a call to action, bottom line, call to action in this day of reckoning.
Right
So,
on.
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Comrade Chairwoman Penny Hess. You can let me know if someone on, from Uhuru coming. Uhuru.
Really an honor to be here, and I just wanted to say that I think that it's a very powerful call, because I think that the colonial media and colonial ruling class always puts out the question of voting as the center of it. And for you, to lay out what it took to win that, and how it was part of the entire struggle of African people for political and economic power in their own hands, like for self-determination. And you just lay out that history, and this happened, and these things happened. So I thought it was very, very, very powerful and important, and really unite with it.
Thank you, Comrade Uhuru. I wanted to say that an objective here. Oh, I see Comrade Lisa Davis. Uhuru, Comrade Sister Lisa Davis, Vice Chair.
Oh, I don't mean to have my hand raised. I'll take this down. My computer's just acting up.
Okay,
Uhuru.
Uhuru. I just wanted Sister Betty Davis. I see you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Chairman, because this recent Supreme Court ruling, which allows them to order Alabama to use a congressional map that slashes Black congressional representation in half. And also recently, 2 of our children were found hanging, and the police dismissed it as not suspicious. If we connect the dots, it's clear it's not just Trump. It is the whole damn system. And we better get moving. And this is the organization to do it. So I thank you for leading the campaign.
Well, thank you, Sister Betty. One thing that's really important, and was important for me in developing this call, is that while we hear a lot of discussion about the Voting Rights Act, nobody has connected the fact that the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965. So that was presumed to give African people access to the ballot, created what would be characterized as universal suffrage in this country. But that's also the year they killed Malcolm X. Malcolm X had gone into Selma, Alabama, where what was the big issue? Voting rights, voting, etc. And he had initiated a unity with Dr. Martin Luther King, who himself would begin this whole process of a poor people's campaign. So we had being expressed at the time, Malcolm X. Anybody go 1963 and read Malcolm X's presentation, the ballot or the bullet, where he laid out the politics that he characterized as Black nationalism. And Black nationalism meant that we should control the politics and the politicians, our own community economy, and our own community, the social life, and our own community, etc. And Martin Luther King, who had moved beyond just participating in the electoral process, and that talked about a poor people's campaign, where he was going to organize people to come from all around the country. They were going to shut down Washington, D.C. until Washington, D.C. offered certain kinds of advances for African and poor people in this country. The electoral process was something that it proved. This is part of what came together to show that for Black people, the struggle was never just about voting. It was about freedom. And so, and which was something that was really exciting. The Mississippi Summer Project, murdering people to keep African people from access to the vote. And then when they offer people, when we find a way to get to the vote, they kill leaders, they kill who provide us a program for liberation, anti-colonial liberation. They killed them, so that never got on the ballot. It's one of the things I saw at one point, comrades out of New York were on. And this is one of the things that makes Charles Barron so significant in New York, because he took anti-colonial politics that they killed Malcolm to keep off the ballot, that they killed King to keep off the ballot. He took it and put it on the ballot right there in New York, which is why a whole array of forces moved against him to make sure that he would be pushed out of power. So I just want people, you don't hear any discussion when they talk about the Voting Rights Act. You don't hear any discussion of its relationship to the assassinations and murders of people who were critical forces in the struggle. Look at the issue of James Foreman, who went to Riverside Church on May 4th, I think it was, of 1969, barely a year after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and and this was a liberal, kind of a congregation and church, and shook the entire thing up and put the reparations issue on the agenda. And actually, he carried out a resolution that had been passed in Detroit just a week earlier on the Black Economic Development Conference in Detroit. It was an incredible moment of history where Africans were driving toward self-determination and anti-colonialism, and that's something they did not want on the ballot. But it's been put back on the ballot since that time, and that's what we're involved in doing. That's what even our 19-point program is about. That's what our endorsements are about, to put it back on the program, so we're not limited to something that's that's chained to the Democratic Party or to the electoral process itself. And we remind people that we didn't win the Voting Rights Act by voting. We didn't get the Voting Rights Act by voting. The voting rights came as a consequence of struggle, intense struggle of African people. So I just want to make those comments. So, and I think where we are now, I'll come at Sister Vice Chair Lisa.
Yes, we're at the point of the panel discussion about the ballot and the bullet. It's the whole damn system. We're not going back, and we will be getting into some of the issues that this recent Supreme Court with their rulings and what they did. So, Chairman, I just want to thank you very much for your powerful presentation, and also just to let you know that that call resonated with some folks. And even though TikTok is severely banning us, but somebody took the call and just made a mini TikTok from the call. So I just thought you would like to know that. But anyway, our next presentation that we're going to hear, we're going to have our panel discussion. And this is a panel discussion called The Ballot and the Bullet. It's the whole damn system. We're not going back. We're going to have some very strong speakers speaking on this, and people who have quite a history with the Voting Rights Act, and attorneys that can also help us understand more about what's going on with that. And so our next presenter, Ifeah Wangaza, is an attorney and lifelong civil human rights activist and freedom fighter. She founded the African American Institute for Policy Studies and Planning and served as the South Carolina coordinator for the Malcolm X grassroots movement. Additionally, she was with the Green Party's nominee for the U.S. Senate in South Carolina in 2004. She'd worked with the National SNCC office and took on campus organizing for the successful Julian Bond Special Election Campaign Committee in Atlanta with the Atlanta Project. She is the founder coordinator of the WMXP LP community-based radio and has sat on the Pacifica Network National Board, the nation's oldest progressive radio network. She is a former co-chair of the Jericho Movement for U.S. Political Prisoners. She represented the U.S. Human Rights Network's Political Prisoner Working Group and observing the U.S. first appearance for UN Universal Periodic Review in Geneva. She represents Black lawyers in Aristide-era Haiti, lectured at the UN Fourth World Conference on Women, NGO Forum, Beijing, China, and helped draft the plan for UN World Conference Against Racism. Sister Ifeah Wangaza, and also all panelists will have 20 minutes for this segment for each presentation. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
President General, you can take that, please.
Uhuru, comrades. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Greetings, sisters, brothers, and a salute to my SNCC comrade and APSP Chairman Omalia Satella and Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yasatella, Vice Chair of the Black is Back Coalition for Peace and Reparations, Sister Makemba X, Lisa Davis. It's an honor to participate in the 10th Annual Electoral School in the tradition which the chairman has revived of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He mentioned the voting rights Mississippi Summer of 1964, that a part of that voting rights campaign was also political education, civic education, as it was once called in the schools. And indeed, it is the whole damn system. It's important that we recognize that there have always been resistance from the shores of Africa to the Americas. We have always been in resistance from the time that Portugal and the Catholic Church perverted the tradition of the 14 and 1500s of limited time and constraint enslavement, with the recognition of the humanity of those enslaved as war captives. There has been resistance and a struggle for liberation, restoration of sovereignty, self-determination of ourselves and the human family. A war to reverse the interruption of human civilization by Europeans, as Sojourner Truth would say, turning the whole world upside down and now leaving it to us to turn it right side up. The Civil War participation, our Civil War participation, was a part of our continuing struggle to free ourselves, having participated in every military action of this criminal enterprise from its inception. Its inception having begun with the Portuguese, marked again by more recently as referencing the 1619 project as a modern initiation of the criminal enterprise. Reconstruction amendments actually imposed citizenship on us, contrary to international and human rights law. We should have had the opportunity to decide whether or not we wanted to be U.S. citizens, be repatriated to our homeland, Africa, or to cede us with the consent of the true owners, the displaced indigenous persons, nations, land that would, for those of us who wanted to remain in the Americas, or to those of us who believe that it's possible to rehabilitate a crime and to become integrated into a reconstructed U.S. Formation. I won't call it a country or a nation. However, with the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, the Reconstruction Amendments as they're called, we were in 1866 actually constitutionally, as a result of the imposition of citizenship, eligible, at least Black men, because only men voted at that time, the right to vote. We have, ever since that time, been struggling to realize the exercise of that constitutional right. That is what the 15th Amendment is about. The 15th Amendment provides that no person eligible to vote would be denied the right to vote on the basis of race, color, or previous status of servitude, thereby providing that people of African descent or formerly enslaved Africans were thereby eligible to vote in the United States. So we need to remember that and to understand that actually it was in that the Civil Rights Acts of the 60s did not bestow upon us the right to vote. What it did, or they did, was to purportedly clear away the barriers that were created as a result of a compromise that was made between the white folks called in 1877 the Tilden-Hayes Compromise, where using the Electoral College, which is the backstop to ensure that white supremacy prevails regarding the appearance of the electoral significance of the electoral process or of democracy, ensures that white supremacists, and it has been defined and now striving towards white male property owners retaining total ultimate privilege and power in this country. It is after nearly 90 years following the 1877 Tilden-Hayes Compromise, where it was decided that the so-called abolitionists, as represented by the then Republican Party, would take the presidency, and the southern states would cast their Louisiana and South Carolina, to be specific. It's interesting to see that South Carolina and Louisiana have not changed their stripes or their position. That they would cast their electoral votes to allow Hayes to become the president, and in exchange for that, the federal troops who have been present in the South during Reconstruction from 1865 to then 1877, to allow the so-called Redeemer governments to take over. The Redeemer governments meaning the restoration of the rules and regulations and governance of the enslavers. So we go into what is called the Jim Crow era, where we were disenfranchised by the so-called grandfather clauses. If you couldn't vote before 1865, then you couldn't vote after 1865, of course. So that eliminated a whole bunch of us, if not all of us. In other instances, the so-called literacy test. How many jelly beans in a jar? You remember the big pickle jars that used to sit on the counter? They'd be full of jelly beans. You had to tell how many black ones was in there, right? Couldn't tell how many was in there generally, especially not how many black ones was in there. Or you had to interpret a paragraph or a section of the various constitution, the Mississippi Constitution, and the person to whom you were supposed to make this interpretation probably couldn't read or write, so he didn't know whether you were telling the truth or not, but he at least figured that we couldn't. And we actually taught people how to interpret paragraphs of these Confederate constitutions in the election civic schools, the freedom schools that were established in order to ultimately to attempt to participate in the electoral process. Poll taxes. We were forced onto oftentimes the same plantations on which we had been enslaved as sharecroppers, which was nothing more than another form of slavery, in order to be able to survive, because we were not provided the reparations that our enslavers and other circumstances, including and especially Washington, D.C., have been given as a result of the Emancipation Proclamation. When all else failed, there was violence and terrorism, which was used to keep us away from the polls. That practice, of course, continued right into the 60s, where, for instance, in Birmingham, so many people's homes were blown up and churches bombed, including the result of four little girls in the 16th Street Baptist Church dying as a result of a bomb having been set off in the church, and Birmingham being known as Bombingham because of the frequency of the violence. We in Even with that, we did not give up the ballot as a tool towards liberating ourselves, towards regaining sovereignty and exercising the human right of self-determination. Instead, the struggle to exercise the right provided under the 13th and enforced under the 15th Amendment continued. Notable but not recognized is Amelia Boynton out of Alabama, Selma, Alabama, and her husband, who throughout the years prior to the 60s struggled to get Black folks registered and able to vote. There was a point at which there were only like 2% of Black people in Mississippi who were registered to vote, although it was a predominantly Black state. When civil rights workers, Bob Moses in particular, went to Alabama to urge support of the Public Accommodations Act, to be able to sit at a lunch counter, to have a cup of coffee, approached Ms. Boynton and her husband and others to participate in the public accommodation. They said, no. We want the vote. If we're going to risk our lives and our property to participate in this system, we want the vote. And that, sisters and brothers, is the initiation of the modern voting rights movement. And so keep that name in mind, that was consistent with the SNCC motto, let the local people decide, when voting rights, when the ballot became the focal point of our activities. And as a result of that, there was the groundswell of electoral political organizing throughout the South. The forming of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, Lowndes County Freedom Democratic Party, South Carolina's United Citizens Party, the liberalization of Georgia's Democratic Party. And through that, various challenges to the status quo. We all remember the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party going to Atlantic City and challenging the Democrats to not seat the segregated delegation from Mississippi, where Mrs. Hamer, Fannie Lou Hamer, testified about the terror that Black people in Mississippi suffer, about the necessity for, as she put it, having to sleep with their phones off the hook in order to avoid harassing phone calls and disruptive phone calls throughout the night, the violence to which they were subjected, to being pushed off of, and in fact, herself, though she was one of the few on the plantation where she had grown up, could read and write. And she was actually the one of the inventory clerks, but was told if she didn't take her names off the ballot, off the registration rolls, that they would have to move off of the plantation, which of course she actually wound up having to do. She From there, Julian Bond ran as a SNCC candidate out of that era. He actually won. He was the National Communications Secretary for SNCC, and in that position announced SNCC's opposition to the U.S. war on Vietnam. And as a result, or in response to that, the Georgia General Assembly refused to seat him. There was a special election called, and we hit the streets and the courts and won in both sites. However, as a result of that, the special election for Julian Bond became the Atlanta Black Power Project. And we call it the Black Power Project because it is the project that reflected on our history, our experiences, where we had said our goals were, and the emerging independent African nations. And what did that mean in terms of African people in the Americas generally, and in the United States in particular? With seasoned SNCC veterans, disciples of Malcolm X, members of the Revolutionary Action Movement, as well as newly minted student activists, we began to study and to assess the situation and to assess the mechanisms and the approaches most likely to allow us to realize our potential, our human right of self-determination, to regain our sovereignty. And it is based on that we wrote the Vine City position paper, which we challenge you to Google and to read. What is taken for granted today, provided that and called for the right of Black people, African people, to determine our own goals, our own tactics, our own way of realizing that objective, and to pursue them, and to those who would be our allies would hold to the standard established by John Brown, that they would follow our own leadership. Give me my apologies for running over, but just let me just say this. The effort to suppress and exclude our participation in governance in this criminal enterprise was most recently established in the Calais case, again, Louisiana challenging our substantive right to vote. And what came out of that is, before that was the Holder case, wherein the so-called pre-clearance clause, where the former Confederate states had to submit to the Department of Injustice for review any changes that may have a negative impact on African voting rights, would have to be cleared by the federal government. That was taken away under the Holder case. Under the Calais case, they took away the impact issue. It's no longer just a question of whether or not there was an impact as negative impact, but that we have to prove that they intended to have a racial impact, and thus so-called partisan, quote unquote, partisan gerrymandering is okay, even though it has the same. So we had to go from being investigators to those who can read minds. Again, thank you for this opportunity to participate, and thank the chairman and the Uhuru movement for maintaining a vehicle that enables and empowers our people to continue to use this tool. Uhuru.
Uhuru, and thank you so very much, Sister Ifia Wangaza. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
presentation as well. A lot of information there, a lot of things that we can learn from and all of that. We want to make sure that these presentations get out. Our next presenter is none other than Roger Wareham, and he is with the December 12th movement. And I first of all just have to start out saying that we will never forget how D12 immediately sprang into action when the government came after the Uhuru 3. And they called a powerful press conference in New York City, which basically alerted almost everybody in the Northeast and in that area. It alerted them to what was going on, and it proved to be so powerful for us. So I got to just thank you again. But Roger Wareham is a lifelong community activist and a founding member of the December 12th movement, a Black non-governmental organization defending the human rights of Black people, both in the U.S. and throughout the African diaspora. Internationally, he has represented the D12 movement International Secretariat at the United Nations Human Rights in Geneva, Switzerland since 1989. Roger has been practicing law for over 30 years, and during that time, he has worked in New York State and the U.S. federal courts in both criminal and civil matters. He was co-counsel in having the Central Park now exonerated fines conviction overturned, and then securing a multi-million-dollar settlement from New York City. He was lead counsel in a federal lawsuit seeking reparations from 17 major U.S. corporations. Uhuru Roger Wareham, D12 is in the house. Woo, 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 woo.
Uhuru. You know, normally following a fear is very daunting. It's like, why did they do that to me? So it's no less daunting now, but it certainly is helpful because Afia provided the historical background for us to look at what's happening in 2026. And I think it's always very important for us to have that historical perspective in terms of where were we, where have we progressed to, and then where do we go from here? So even though Afia went over, I will cede her some of my time because I'm not gonna take the full 20 minutes. You know, that's unusual for a lawyer to not do the whole thing. So it's the whole damn system. We're not going back. If we start from that basis that the system needs to be replaced, the question becomes, how do we get there? Is voting a way to get there? The Voting Rights Act was passed and signed into law with a great fanfare in 1965. It was the fruit of decades of mass struggle and came at a cost of countless lives lost and destroyed and blood shed. As Afia just pointed out, the death knell of the Voting Rights Act came in 2013 in the Shelby County v. Holder Supreme Court decision when they knocked out the preclearance section that she just explained, so I don't need to go over that. And I just add as a footnote that the holder in Shelby County v. Holder was Attorney General Eric Holder, who was one of my classmates in law school. The coup de grace, the death blow to the Voting Rights Act was in April's decision in Louisiana at Calais, where the Supreme Court approved racial gerrymandering. And as Afia just said, and people heard, it it completely gutted whatever was left of the Voting Rights Act. So I don't think it's necessary to go through all the seeds, all the weeds of the specifics of these US Supreme Court decisions, because their essence has been to take all people of color, particularly Black people, back to a time envisioned by the MAGAs, when we had no rights. The Republicans are basically, to take a basketball analogy, posterizing their so-called opposition, the Democratic Party. It's like Wemby dunking on a 10-year-old. So the question becomes, as always, what are we going to do about it? The theme of this session is the ballot and the bullet. That's a take on Malcolm's classic 1964 speech, The Ballot or the Bullet. The title demands an understanding and begs for an understanding of strategy and tactics. Strategy must inform tactics. It involves an analysis of the concrete conditions that we face today. Racial capitalism / imperialism have placed and maintained Black people in the position we are today. The US economy, despite obscene profits being generated to a minute minority, is in decline. The US economy, except for weapons of destruction, manufactures next to nothing. It, like an Amazon on steroids, has become a vehicle for delivering goods and services in a real vulgar materialist sense. China is steadily moving to replace the US as the leading economic power in the world. This changing of the international guard is reflected in the degenerating quality of life for the mass of most people in the US, and that includes people, not just Black folks and people of color, but white folks as well. But it's even more so for us, as always. We always get it worse. Stephen Biko from South Africa said the most potent weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. When the myth of democracy no longer works, when it has lost its grip in controlling behavior, the ruling class must resort to force. Fascism is the vehicle for that exercise of force. We are making a mistake if we look for brown shirts goose-stepping into the White House, although there's some reasonable facsimiles in terms of Bovino. In fact, many people may not realize Hitler took power through legal methods. He was voted in. Once in power, he then moved to rid himself of, either change the laws or rid himself of those laws that became obstacles to complete consolidation of power in that dictatorship. So, what do we see happening across the US? Before he left office in 2021, Trump, through his appointments, had reshaped the federal judiciary in his favor, particularly at its highest levels, the Court of Appeals, the Courts of Appeals, and the Supreme Court. They have been providing the legal rationales for the reactionary policies he has been putting into place. A similar campaign is being waged on the level of state institutions. To quote another famous and insightful African revolutionary, Amilcar Cabral, quote, "Always bear in mind that the people are not fighting for ideas, for the things in anyone's head. They are fighting to win material benefits, to live better and in peace, to see their lives go forward, to guarantee the future of their children." And I think as organizers or would-be organizers, we have to bear that in mind. So then the question becomes, what role can voting in this society, even with its limitations, play in what Cabral has stated? This is where an understanding of tactics come in. We do not want to promote the belief that voting alone will resolve the fundamental contradictions of US life, but voting can begin to ameliorate some problems on a material level and educate people on a political level. There is a tactical value in participating in certain elections, particularly if it can slow down the consolidation of fascism. Sometimes doing so puts one in the conundrum of the lesser of two evils. You know, we don't want to vote for the lesser two, we won't vote at all. This is a viable tactical decision so long as the lesser is not lifted up as the solution. It's basically buying you some breathing room, some time to continue to organize. And that's necessary because Black people know fascism. It's what we have faced during our entire existence in North America, oppression and brute force. Despite legislations and court rulings, the US has never really moved past the Dred Scott, the US decision in Dred Scott, that a Negro has no rights, which a white man is bound to respect. White folks coined the term fascism after they began employing the vicious methods of rule that they had exercised over enslaved Africans and over their colonial holdings and populations. They began to apply it to other white folks in Europe. So we should have no illusions regarding the degree of misery and terror that fascism inflicts. So we should have, excuse me, and when some of us, you know, when we're out in the street, some of us are maintaining that the attack on voting, the deportation of people of color, ICE brutality towards the Latinos have nothing to do with Black people, that they asked for it, they got it. In other words, that it can't get worse. We should know better. It can and will get worse unless we organize to prevent it. Voting is a useful tactic, or as Afia said, a tool in building a resistance. There is no formula, no one size fits all in terms of the voting for people, but we must keep in mind that when Malcolm said, by any means necessary, he meant that. Not just our right to self-defense, the right to pick up arms, but our right to use every possible tactic which will advance our struggle for liberation. This requires hard and critical analysis. Our task is to apply them to our conditions in 2026, and most importantly, act on them. I thank you. Uhuru.
Uhuru, brother, Roger Williams, thank you so very much. I know you have a hard stop. You have to leave it by.
Yeah, I have to leave in a few minutes because I had a prior commitment I was committed to prior to this, but I had to make time and space for this. So when people see me dropping off, it's not for a lack of interest. It's just got stretched too many ways.
Okay, and so you know what I think we'll just do, at least for right now, maybe just take a couple of questions if people have questions for you, and then just so people will know how we're running. Brother Zaki, you will be coming up next. Sister, but Linda Parker Brown is not able to get on right now, so we have a little bit of time. So why don't we just take at least maybe 5 minutes, since we're still on your time, to find out if people have any questions. Any questions for Brother Roger? And if you have any questions, if you're in the Zoom room, please make sure to put your questions in the Q&A section.
Uhuru. Uhuru, am I heard?
Oh, yes, Brother Chairman, go right ahead, Uhuru.
Well, first of all, I really want to express appreciation to Comrade Roger. I've known Roger for a while. I think that he was a founding member of D12, but I think when I met Roger, the organization was it the Sunrise Collective, Roger?
You're right. You got that right. That's going way back.
Yeah. And I think he's forgotten, but when we first built the International Tribunal on Reparations for African people, Brooklyn, New York, Sunrise Collective, in fact, Roger was the point person who played the primary role in helping to make that happen. And that was despite the fact that there were some forces in New York at the time who literally boycotted the tribunal because they thought that another particular person who was well known at the time should have been, we should have allowed that person to be recognized as a leader of the entire thing. So, but I wanted to express a profound appreciation. We were with Roger in Durban rather, as well. In fact, the first party organization in South Africa, we created it during the Durban conference that happened there, which was a really critical, more than most people will ever understand the significance of Durban. And of course, that was overshadowed by what was it called? 9/11?
9/11, right,
That
right.
was an extraordinary occurrence in Durban that preceded what we just saw happening with the United Nations declaration that slavery and colonialism are the greatest crime, in fact, in human history. So I thought that was that's important, and that's part of the point that I was attempting to convey, that our struggle never has been around simply voting, but the struggle to be free, a free people, in control of our own lives, in control of our own destiny, to be able to say that our children will have a future, not because a good white man or his lackey got elected, but because that future is in our own hands. I did want to raise something that concerns me, because I think that when some people talk about fascism, it's done in a fashion that's designed to negate the struggle against colonialism. As Roger said, that what we're looking at when we put what white people call fascism is when the features of colonialism begin to seep into the society of the colonizers themselves. I mean, it's not even logical, the concept of fascism, because it's not just repression. If that was what it was, then it would have been called fascism and not colonialism. But we believe that we are living within a colonial mode of production, that people recognize, for example, the Marxist descriptions of modes of production and how capitalism is a mode of production that governs all of the activity in a particular society. But the real foundation, as Marx himself has said, of capitalism, that he characterized as a primitive accumulation of capital, that he talked about included turning Africa into a warren for the commercial hunting of black skins, that included the attack on what he called East India, and turning in the United States, interring the indigenous population, aboriginals, into the mines, bringing up gold and silver and what have you. He said that this is the primitive accumulation, as he characterized it, that was the foundation of capitalism. He said this had, in terms of political economy, the equivalence of original sin in theology. This was the starting point. Our problem has always been the fact that we can never get the white left to engage in the struggle against colonialism. In fact, they required us to say we're fighting against fascism because that was impacting them, to be able to get some unity from them. And that's always been like a problem that we've had. In fact, Cabral, I'm glad the comrade mentioned Cabral, because Cabral is one who reminded us that the Portuguese left had come to him and said that because Portugal at the time was living under fascism, and he said that if you destroy fascism, and he's talking now to the Africans colonized by Portugal, if you destroy fascism, you would automatically destroy colonialism. And Cabral's response was, we hate fascism. We don't like fascism at all. But what we don't know, though, that if you destroy fascism, you automatically destroy colonialism. But we do believe if you destroy colonialism, fascism will go. And that was the thing he was telling the Portuguese left. And something like a year after the defeat of colonialism, Portuguese colonialism, the fascist state of Portugal collapsed. And so that's the thing that we think is really important, that the strategic direction of the work that we have to be involved in is an attack on colonialism, and that's turning stuff right side up, Because look at who were some of the best fighters in Europe against fascism, the French. But at the same time, the French were fighting against, and you got the berets and heroic and kind of French fighters, but they controlled much of Africa. They were killing people in Vietnam. They were doing all this other stuff as colonizers. So they could fight against fascism in Europe, but at the same time, they were colonizing African people, Vietnamese people, and other peoples around the world because the foundation of the whole system was fascism. And that's the thing, I mean, it was colonialism. So that's one of the reasons I appreciate the fact that that you were able to recognize that that Africans have suffered this thing that has been defined as fascism in the white world. It's been real to us forever.
Forever.
Forever. Indigenous people, nobody ever said the indigenous people fighting against fascism. You got people living in concentration camps, they call it Indian reservations. They don't say that's fascism. That's colonialism. And that's the kinds of contradiction that we're looking at. We can't get the white left to fight against colonialism. They will fight against symptoms of it. They will fight against things that seems to maybe, impact on their future, their existence, etc. And we want to unite. And we want them to unite with the majority of the people on the earth who are not white people, who are suffering from fascism, but Africans and Vietnamese and Afghans and Iranians and Cubans and all the peoples of the world who are fighting against this monstrous colonialism, this mode of production that is parasitic by its very nature, etc. Anyway, I know I said a lot, Roger.
No, no. I mean, what you said is true, and I think for the people who are watching this and listening to it, it informed. We have to think. We have to think. We have to think hard. We have to analyze. And I also want to thank you for bringing up this. This year is the 25th anniversary of Durban, and where that first historic declaration that the transatlantic slave trade and slavery were crimes against humanity and reparations were due came. And because of that, and this was even before the subsequent resolution put forward by the African group was passed at the end of March, which recognized that first, as it wasn't a trade, it was trafficking, and that it was not just a crime against humanity, it was the gravest crime against humanity, that it was a paradigm shift in history. So we had already planned for August 29th, which is around the time when the World Conference began in 2001, to have people around the country, and I think several people on the platform to hold rallies, whatever, to raise up the question of that historic victory. It was a Pan-African victory in Durban, not just getting it, but it was a Pan-African victory, and to use that as a catalyst to push forward the motion around the demand for reparations, which is tied to the question of fascism, which is tied to the question of colonialism. They're all tied together. So thank you for raising that up.
And thank you, Detail, for inviting us to participate. And I hope you'll send us more information on
definitely
the anniversary, actions that people can
definitely
do. Yeah. And here's comment, President
Zaki Baruti.
Hey,
I
brother.
was gonna say hey before I got to sign out. How are you,
Right.
brother?
To acknowledge you, the December 12th movement, the memory of Viola Plummer, as well as Tim Moringa, and us working together through the great country of Libya under the leadership of Muammar
Gaddafi. Right. All those ties. Right. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm gonna have to get the tape of your presentation because I got to sign out, but I know it's going to be powerful. I know it's going to be insightful and informative. Take care.
Thank
Peace.
you,
Uhuru. Thank you.
Uhuru, thank you so very much, Brother Roger. And my computer continues to act weird on me, so that's why I'm speaking from my phone. And Brother Zaki Baruti, you're going to be up next. And please just bear with me, everybody, a moment. I had all of my bios laid out, and just running into a little bit of trouble here. I want to give Brother Zaki Baruti the proper introduction. So just bear with me one more second, please.
You don't have to use this.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right here.
Brother Zaki, I know he's, oh my gosh, I'm sorry that this is even happening. Brother Zakiba Rudy, you are up next for sure. Oh, here we go. You have such a beautiful introduction, and I always like to introduce people properly. Brother Zakiba Rudy, he is a graduate from Southern Illinois University. He is a former educator, 33 years, and a union activist. He was the second vice president and political action chairperson of Local 1220 East St. Louis Federation of Teachers. He's the author of 2 educational booklets, Challenge the Building of a Clean, Prosperous Black Community Through Our Educational System, as opposed to The Conspiracy, and Challenge Part 2, Can We Do It? He is a former political action chairperson of the East St. Louis chapter of the Black United Front, distributor of the Black Panther Party newspaper. He was a Democratic Party candidate for governor of Missouri in 1984 and 1986 and 1988, endorsed by Minister Louis Farrakhan. He garnered 19% of the vote in 1988, and he was the Green Party candidate in 2000. He's the former co-chair of the Coalition Against Police Violence and Repression. He has traveled to over 35 countries and met several heads of states, including Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, Robert Mugabe, Omar Bashir of Sudan, and Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua. He is currently a member of Gateway Green Alliance. He is the co-chair of the Community Justice Coalition and co-founder and president general of the United African Peoples Organization and publisher of the quarterly newspaper, The African News World, which is an excellent newspaper, by the way. And he's also the host of an internet TV program, Conversations with Zakiba Rudy. Brother Zakiba Rudy, uhuru!
Yo. First and foremost, let me just say I am so humbled to be on this distinguished panel. I just wanted to salute Sister Althea for her historical acknowledgement of our involvement in the voting process, as well as just want to salute the African People's Socialist Party and the Black is Back Coalition for the years of organizing and speaking truth to power. Also, before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge in the house with me is the Universal African People's Organization Ambassador of Love, Chantel Mason. And also, I'd like to, Brother Chairman, acknowledge Khalid Rahim. I wanted to acknowledge him also. His organization supported a number of national political conferences that we had held, and he visited St. Louis as a panelist, as well as I visited Pittsburgh for an event that they sponsored. And I'd be remiss not to acknowledge Minister Akbar Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, who recently transitioned. And it was through him that I was able to meet the various heads of states that was mentioned, including Gaddafi, Robert Mugabe, Omar Bashir, and Daniel Ortega. I'm always inspired. First of all, I had so many thoughts coming from Chairman Omali Yesateli when he was acknowledging Brother Malcolm X. And I'm going to be quoting, making several quotes from Malcolm in part of my presentation. I'm proud to say in round Malcolm that our organization, since it was founded in 1989 as an extension of my candidacy for governor, we salute Malcolm each year in terms of his birthday on or near his birthday, as well as we founded our organization, when you mentioned Dr. King, on April the 4th, which was the assassination date of Dr. King, and our commitment to go forward seeking social justice and equality, as well as we always celebrate the great Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey yearly. And the theme for today is a powerful theme, you know, in terms of just the whole damn system that we're up against. One of my reflections of when I think Sister Afia was mentioning in terms of the beastly behavior, including the killing of Medgar Evers, who was pushing for voting rights, was Mississippi goddamn. But then too, changing it from Mississippi goddamn, USA goddamn. So, I mean, that's some of the emotions that I've been touched by the presentation by my brother, Chairman Amali Yesatelli. But you know, the question before us, and we know the attack on voting rights, is how do we respond? And we also understand that voting is purely a tool. Our organization, we maintain that one level of struggle that we have to pursue is the implementation and the work toward proportionate political representation. And what does that mean? It simply means that whatever percentage we are as a people, on the local level of governments, the state level of government, or the national level of government, then we should have that political percentage of power. So take, for instance, if we are 14% of the total United States population, then it makes common sense that we should be at least 14% of the political power. Common sense to me, especially in that we pay taxes, as well as governmental elected officials put forth policies that deal with our everyday survival in America. Classic example, the uprisings in Ferguson. At the time of the murder of Mike Brown Jr., Ferguson was 68% Black, which was shocking to me because I lived in Ferguson at one time as it was transforming into the Black majority population. And in fact, I lived in a complex where Mike Brown was actually murdered back in the 70s and was a housing activist, made some changes, but they wouldn't renew my lease because of my activism at that point in time. However, 68% population, but you had a city council of 6 city council people and the mayor, 7 local government officials. Of that number, ideally, it should have been majority Black, common sense. Am I right or wrong? However, it was only 1 Black on the city council. As an extension of that, you had a police force that had 53 members. Of those 53, only 3 were Black. And as a consequence of that, you had constant attacks on Black people in Ferguson through police stops, which they made the majority of their money on the backs of Black folks being stopped by the police. Classic example of why we should have proportionate political representation. And since that uprising, we do have more Black elected officials in Ferguson, and we have a change of leadership at the police department with more of us as police officers. Not saying it's guaranteed that everything is right, but it's much better as relates to the police and the Black community in Ferguson. Classic example of the need for proportionate political representation. On the national level, and why have we have been pushing that concept? It actually started in 1984 under the auspices of an organization that I headed at that time called the Caucus for Community Progress. At that time, we looked at the political composition of Black people and the most powerful positions in America. When you look at the United States Senate, which is 100 members, 2 per state, in 1984, even though the Voting Rights Act had been passed in 1965, there were 0 Black members of the United States Senate. Equates to what percentage of Black participation there? 0. In the United States House of Representatives, there was 19 members, which equated to 4%. Whereas at that time, the population of Black people in America was at least 14 to 16%. So ideally, for the United States Senate, instead of 0, it should have been at least what? 14. When you look at also the U.S. House of Representatives, which is a composition of always 435 members, at that time it was only 19, as I mentioned, 4%, whereas ideally, if you had 14%, there would have been at least 59 to 60 U.S. House of members of the House of Representatives. And when you look at the governorships at that time, 50 governors, 0 Black, 0%. So our organization at that time went forward with what we call Missouri's first statewide Black People's Political Convention. Had over a couple hundred people. We had 3 objectives. One was to educate whoever was in attendance to state politics. We drew up a platform of concerns impacting Black people in the state of Missouri, and we encouraged Black people to run statewide. Naively, I thought, because we had in attendance some local elected officials, some ministers, I thought we would be able to get somebody to run for governor, but that didn't occur, and that's how I ended up running for governor. And it was a great experience. I want to say that because I'm leading to something. Where we at now, going forward, just so everybody knows where we at politically, from 1984 to now, we have gained 1 governorship out of Maryland, okay, Westmore. From 1984 to now, for the United States Senate, we have gathered 5, which is only 5% of the U.S. senators. However, shockingly, and that's one of the motivations for the attack on the voting rights, and not saying we agree with the politics of the elected officials, but we have proportionate political representation in the United States House of Representatives because we have at least 59 voting members in the United States House of Representatives that equate to 14%. However, many of you know that they are bought and sold, especially to AIPAC, you know, that serves the interests of the Zionist state of Israel. So we have to have, when we talk about elected officials, our position is that we do need quantitative, but we need qualitative freedom fighters as elected officials. Why do I bring that up? Because our organization is saying, and we're challenging everybody here on the Black is Back Forum, that we got to look to 2028. And in 2028, there's going to be 34 United States Senate seats up for election and 11 governorships. In my mind, if we had 34 conscious, African-centered, anti-colonialist candidates, and everybody saying the same thing, what would that do? It would shake up America in a sense, as well as it would be a point of educating more of the masses of our people in terms of the issues that we can raise. Reparations, an end of redirecting the billions and trillions of dollars that go into the military to kill and maim people. It's so much that we can do with that. So I always say Sister Lisa Davis in New Jersey, Betty Davis in New York, Belinda Parker in Louisiana, and so on and so on. Man, to me, that would be a great move to me. So anyway, I just want to project that. But also, as I said, I don't know how much time I got, but I want to quote a couple of statements from Brother Malcolm X. And I'm quoting them from a newspaper. When we talk about political power, we publish a quarterly newspaper that's called the African News World. And on the front cover of this particular issue in 2022, because we try to practice what we preach, we had one of our members running for the United States Senate. Many of you know Miss Coffee Wright. And on the front cover, it had spread the word, red alert, red alert, red alert, alert. Racial imbalance at the highest levels of the United States government. U.S. senators, 100, only 2 from each state, only 3 at that time in 22, were Black, not one black female, 50 state governors, not one black. And ironically, bringing this here, I went through our newspaper, and Brother Chairman Omali Yesateli just fired me up around Malcolm X. So I want to just give us several quotes and make some comments. First, he says, if violence is wrong in America, violence is wrong abroad. If it is wrong to be defending black women and black children and black babies, then it's wrong for America to draft us and make us violent abroad in defense of her. Meaning black folks, why are you going over and fighting in Iran, killing our people there? Why are you supporting this embargo of Cuba? And if it is right for America to draft us and teach us to be violent in defense of her, then it's right for you and me to do whatever is necessary to defend our own people right here in this country. And also, I was taken aback by one of the prior speakers mentioned about a hanging in Mississippi. Our prior newspaper focused on about 5 or 6 hangings in this country. So they're trying to, I mean, we got to look at reality. We're in a reckoning point in history. He also said, if you stick a knife 9 inches into my back and pull it out 3 inches, that is not progress. If you pull it out all the way out, that is not progress. Progress is healing the wound, and America hasn't even begun to pull out the knife. That's why we need reparations. He also goes on to say, you're not to be so blind with patriotism that you can't face reality. Wrong is wrong no matter what does it or says it. It's wrong for the United States to be bombing Iran. It's wrong for the United States to have an economic strangulation of the Cuban economy. It's wrong. And everybody needs to be speaking out on that, including our so-called ministers, in terms of speaking truth to power, as Dr. King finally broke the silence at his speech exactly 1 year before he was assassinated in terms of against the Vietnam War. Truth is on the side of the oppressed today. It's against the oppressor. We are going to win. We are going to win. Revolution is always based on land. Revolution is never based on begging somebody for an integrated cup of coffee. And that's why we got to support the Alliance of Sahel states who have kicked out the oppressors in those states. But we got to understand, just as they killed Gaddafi, they're plotting today to destroy that particular movement.
Yes.
He goes on, I like this one, I like all of them. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty, as they were trying to make Uhuru 3 guilty, and make the guilty innocent, and that's power, because they control the minds of the masses. He also said, if you are not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Education is an important element in the struggle for human rights. It is the means to help our children and our people rediscover identity and thereby increase their self-respect. Although the educational system of today does not do that at all.
Right.
And we have to be clear there, and that's why we're gonna have to have some freedom schools.
Right.
Concluding, a couple more. My alma mater was books, a good library. I could spend the rest of my life reading, just satisfying my curiosity. And we got to have a movement that guide our people to reading the correct books. And one of my favorite books, I always say every Black family should have it, is 100 Years of Lynching, to keep us grounded in terms of the reality of America. A race of people is like an individual man until it uses its own talent, takes pride in its own history, expresses its own culture, affirms its selfhood. It can never fulfill itself. A man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. And so those are the quotes that I just wanted to share that I was inspired, I mean, for real, when I came here through you, Chairman, to acknowledge Malcolm and his great work. Let's give it up for Malcolm and all of the prior freedom fighters, and that we have to go with the torch. God bless everybody.
Uhuru, brother Zakiba Rudy, thank you so much. And yes, let's hear it for the freedom fighters. Uhuru. Woo, 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 woo. So, is Sister Melinda Parker Brown? It's a little difficult for my phone for me to see who's in the room. I believe, for some reason, she's running late and not able to be present at this time, which means that we have a Q&A schedule. We have a Q&A schedule for 30 minutes, and then we have lunch. And Sister Ikenge can sort of also keep us focused with how we're running and how this time is going. But so let's go into Q&A, and if people can sort of help me monitor those asking questions and stuff. Again, I'm having difficulty with my regular computer, so I'm right now doing this from my phones, and I have difficulty seeing people raising hands and stuff like that. And also, if people could also help to monitor the chat, and if people have questions in the Q&A section, that would be a help too, because it's a little difficult for me to see it. But do we have any questions? Any questions from anybody in the room? Panelists, anyone?
Uhuru, comrade. Uhuru, comrade.
Uhuru.
Okay, so I have a question in regards to, given the recent Supreme Court decision has effectively hollowed out the Voting Rights Act and made it far more difficult to legally challenge the vote dissolution, which is what is the most valuable strategy for building independent political influence outside of this compromised electoral system. How do we bypass this federal setback to ensure our communities still have a decisive vote? And then I also want to know, aside from this, how do we mobilize the working class to exert power when the official maps and the legal protections continually work to silence our voices? So
Okay.
how do we?
All right. Thank you for the question. For me, it's several levels of struggle. First of all, we got to continue the concept of proportionate political representation, and we got to continue challenging for those particular positions of power. And then in terms of fight back, we have to fight back on several levels. First of all, we got to increase the membership of our respective organizations. You know, and at our last Malcolm X program, which I failed to make mention in terms of last year when we celebrated Malcolm, we had brought in representatives from the Cuban government to be our presenters. And this year, our organization renewed our call to increase our membership around the concept of 144,000 as a task for us to build our movement. And our movement in terms of on the spiritual level, political level, cultural level, and economic level. And when I mention economic level, like we had supported the boycott of Target. We have to, as a collective, begin to identify economic entities and engines in this society that we punish them for allowing the Supreme Court rulings that had occurred. So, but to make it effective, of course, then it goes back to where I said, we got to have greater membership and awaken the consciousness of our people, and awakening the consciousness of our people through efforts like right here, as well as through our newspapers. You have the Uhuru newspaper. We got to expand all those kinds of efforts to educate our people, because it says, Malcolm says, about changing the mindset of our people to embrace some of the tactics that must go forward.
Uhuru, do we have any other questions or comments? And again, the questions can be for anything that was said. I know Sister Afia had been speaking, so if you have questions as well about that, please let them rip.
Economic, how can our voices be heard and or our things withheld? Like how should we withhold our finances that would definitely make a mark, you know, to get people on board? You know, I know it's time to fight, and you know, it's like a fight. Like we need to be. It's not just protesting type. You know, like we need to go look. We need to go further. So without violence, but you know, our money speaks volume. So what are some of the areas economically that we can withhold our funds that make them say, you know what, we need to do something different?
Okay,
Let me,
again, oh, all right, I'm sorry.
yeah, I want to respond to both of those. One, with regard to the first question about uh, eh, um, increasing the participation in the electoral process, I would urge consideration of 2 points. One is the redefinition of our concept of reshaping our concept of winning. We are inclined to think that if you don't get the office, that you haven't won. But I think that the example and the lessons to be learned from the successful campaign that was waged by the Uhuru movement in St. Petersburg, um, with um, oh God, my apologies, the two candidates' names escape me. Um, but that's instructive. And that is the fact that it's that we go through phases with everything, and that was an educational process. The value of public political education must be emphasized. One. Two, the value of ourselves and the fact that our predecessors fought, bled, and died to realize the exercise of the constitutional 1866, mind you, constitutional right to register and vote, resulting from centuries of engagement and struggle leading up to the its culmination in the 14th, 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment being added to the U.S. Constitution. They didn't do that as a favor. We won those. We have fought in every battle from the inception, driving Native Americans off their land in the Revolutionary Wars, the so-called Indian Wars and such. So let's remember that. Let's know our history and honor it. And to the act of participating in the electoral process, voting, even I've even done write-ins where I just write myself in. Is an expression of resistance, recognition, and honor of our predecessors. It was the second question with regard to how we spend our money. One of the things that we can consider on an even larger scale is resisting consumerism and stop being conspicuous consumers. Stop feeding the overall system and allocating the funds that we would be spending on what they now call fast fashion and other such items and devices that are designed to become obsolete, to resist the manipulation of the vacuum that we feel, the pain that we feel of being in a hostile environment by overspending, overeating, overconsumption. The changing of our values, developing and practicing revolutionary values. Thank you.
May I speak to that, please?
Yes, please, Chairman.
I think it's important questions. I think a lot of important questions have been raised during this process. And for me, I think the fundamental thing that we have to recognize is that we are colonized. And colonialism, by definition, is when foreign and aliens take control of your lives, your power, your economy, your politics, everything about us is dominated by foreign and aliens who've taken control of our lives. One, and that everything that we do has to be connected to the strategic requirement to overturn colonial domination. Because no matter whatever else happens, as long as the colonizer has control of your life, being able to feed and clothe and house you, that's part of what makes the issue even of boycott significant. It's one thing to boycott Target, but it's another thing, even if you're boycotting Target, to build your own Target.
Right.
The thing is that that's why you go down West Florissant. This is thing that always blows my mind when we have this discussion, because you gotta do is drive down West Florissant and you see what to do with your dollars.
Yeah.
You see what you do is you build your own, we got a farm, we develop a farm, we develop a housing for the people, we develop, all of these projects that bring the people into their own power. That's the thing that we have to do. And we do other stuff. When I say we, I'm talking about the people. Our people have to do other kinds of things, and we can punish entities with boycotts and stuff like do bad things, but our strategic objective has to be able to do it for ourselves. Self-government is the most important anti-colonial commitment that we can make. I'm not going to live. The white man, the colonizer, is not going to dominate another generation of Black people. That's our stance. I think it has to be. And so I also think that there was something else that was raised. So, like the question of voting rights, the most important votes that we've done that I'm familiar with, one of the most important is 1920, when Marcus Garvey had this Negro UNIA meeting right there in New York. And something like 25,000 people in Madison Square Garden, another 25,000 outside Madison Square Garden, and Black people voted. That's where the red, black, and green you see flying out there. Black people from around the world voted. That's our flag. Black people voted Garvey as a provisional president of Africa. Black people voted for what we wanted, steamship lines and stuff like that. That's how we have to move to collect our own power. That's the power. Now, I believe we should vote here. Comrade Afia mentioned the campaign that we waged in St. Petersburg, Florida, and the candidates were Akira Nai and Jesse Neville, who ran for city council and mayor. And they ran on unity through reparations, and they ran on make the South Side Black again, against gentrification. These were right up front slogans. St. Petersburg, Florida was something like 18% African. But we ran that, and Akile led demonstrations in the middle of white St. Petersburg of a couple of hundred white people who were marching behind her saying unity through reparations, demanding reparations, popularizing. That's significant and part of the vote for us. But we have to be able to take the vote and put anti-colonial politics on it, because white people can vote for anti-colonial politics. What they might have a problem is voting for anti-racism politics, because anti-racism almost calls on white people to vote against themselves. But they can vote against colonizers. They cannot unwhite themselves, but they can make themselves anti-colonials. And I think that's really important. And Comrade Zaki, the drive that he was making, proportional representation, I initially had problems with that. Because as he mentioned, you don't know who you get when you get just because they're Black. But he says that if you got right thinking people, but the thing that makes them right thinking is what we've done with the Black is Black Coalition. We say this is a national Black political agenda for self-determination. So we require for candidates to be for self-determination, which is an anti-colonial demand. And this is the thing, we do everything we can to push that. And sometimes we'll win an election, maybe, sometimes we won't win an election, but we change the discussion among our own people. We use that forum because it's a quote unquote legitimate forum. Because the white man said this is what you're supposed to do. You can do this. He did it for himself, not for us. So we go in there and we take anti-colonial politics. We take the kind of politics that President General Zaki is talking about, and that we've been talking about, throughout this process. So I just think that our response has to be to our condition. And the most fundamental condition that we suffer from is not having power over our own lives. And how do you deal with that? You get the power. You struggle for the power. And we use the electoral process and anything we can, as coming, Roger mentioned earlier, by any means necessary. And I don't mean just run out and get a gun or something like that, because generally speaking, I'm scared of black people with guns at this point. Anyway, because they don't tell me who you're going to shoot, right? So we got a lot of work to do. And anyway, I've overtalked this, I recognize that. But I want to appreciate this presentation in this school because it's a critical moment. And one of the reasons we're having this discussion right now is because the Supreme Court moved and gutted that 1965 Voting Rights Act. And I was one of the people who fought for the Voting Rights Act in the streets, in the communities, and faced arrest and all this other kind of stuff in the South making that happen. But it was in the process of fighting for freedom. That's the thing we were about, not just the right to vote, but the right to be free. And that's what this was, part of the strategy that African people were using at the time. So anyway, and Zaki, of course, I don't have to tell you about Zaki because he's been here for a long, long, long time, doing this kind of work. And I have the highest appreciation for Comrade Zaki Baruti, and I gain more and more appreciation almost every day. So thank you so much.
Okay, and I'd like to add on Sister Althea when she made the comment, victory doesn't necessarily have to mean that you are elected.
Right.
Victory is putting out the issues that impact the people,
Right.
And the people gaining respect for the concepts that you're pushing out that's pro-people versus anti-people.
Right.
As well as, I just want to emphasize also in terms of what the chairman mentioned, and as well as Sister Althea, in terms of getting away from just consumerism as a strategy. I do subscribe to that, as well as we have to push up our own businesses in our community.
Yeah.
And in the past, we've had weeks of trying to just support Black-owned businesses as an organization. So anyway, that's your.
Uhuru, do we have any more questions? Any panelists? Also, let me just read to you a couple of comments that came from some people who are watching, and that way, if you address other questions, you might also address these. But one person, our comrade, Brother Don Hammonds, and he's watching from Facebook, and he wants to know if we have any pamphlets about voting. So I get the feeling that's another project we'll have if we don't have something already. But he wants to know, if we have any like an Uhuru voters guide. And then we have a couple of other questions. Let me see if I can pull them up. Again, I'm working from my phone, which is a little difficult. But Saeed Kamba says she's hailing from New Kensington, PA. And her question is, what recommendations can you share in regards to fundraising to run? And what are some tips you can provide to determine whether you can source resources without compromise? And then Q says they appreciate the BIBC Electoral School, and she says she's glad that Afia Wangaza said that in 1866 Africans in the U.S. were forcibly made U.S. citizens. And now it's clear it was an annexation, except instead of land, it was annexation of people. So she was commenting on that. And I just want to say for Saeed that tomorrow we will be getting into a lot of the questions that you have raised. We will hear from people who have been elected, like Brother Charles Barron, and how they stood their ground. And also we'll be hearing from Sister Akile, and she'll be talking about her campaign. So I just want to let you know that tomorrow we will definitely be dealing with those issues. But in the meantime, does anybody have any response for that? Uhuru.
I'll respond out of my candidacy for governor. We had a shoestring budget. However, we went directly to the people on so many different levels. We went where the people were at in the lounges, in the churches, every day on the parking lots. And that's how, and we effectively used the media. There were many different because we were controversial at that particular, you got to create controversy
Yeah.
to get some news coverage. And in fact, I never forget when Minister Louis Farrakhan endorsed my candidacy, we got a whole lot of coverage on that one. But bottom line is, we were blessed on a budget about, if my memory serves me right, when I ran the second time in 1988, we had a budget about $10,000, but we were able to generate over 87,000 votes, which was 19% of the vote total in a state that it was only 10% Black. And in fact, we had a lot of rural farmers, white farmers, that were supporting our candidacy also, because we spoke to their reality as they were being under attack.
Right.
But I was always, whenever I went into the rural areas to speak, you got to stay consistent and kept our issues as far as what was taking place with us, as well as spoke to him. I never forget, if I may share a personal experience. I think I was in Moberly, Missouri, a real rural area, and I spoke, and afterwards a white farmer came up to me asking, did we have some accommodations for the night? And of course we didn't, because we didn't have the money to stay. We was going to get back to St. Louis, but he offered us to stay at his home, which we did. And the next morning he was showing us how to milk a cow and that kind of thing. But those are the kind of personal relationships that we were able to develop. And it's a good experience running for office.
Yeah.
The victory again is spreading the message of liberation to our people. That's the victory. And that's why I want to reemphasize 2028. In my mind, just a historical onslaught of us who are conscious, challenging for those positions of power, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. representatives, governorships. And again, I want to reemphasize 34 U.S. Senate seats up for election, 11 governorships.
Yeah, if I might, I want to appreciate the point that the numbers, because we don't have a clear picture of what the battleground is. So that's very helpful. Thank you, Brother Zakiti. I want to also challenge us to study, to learn, and to use what a sister calls ancient technologies. What is it that we've done in the past? And quite frankly, I don't know anybody who's a better fundraiser than the Uhuru movement at this point in time. Absolutely. But I would tell the story of Doug Wilder becoming governor of the state of Virginia, and the finance with the sale of peanuts, chicken dinners, and sweet potato pies. So let's remember what it is that has gotten us, as the ancestors would say, that brought us over. It'll carry us far. Thank you.
You know what, my sister, it was just ironic that Doug Wilder ran a year or 2 years after my candidacy for governor.
Okay.
And, yeah, so you never know when you out here spreading the message how it influences others.
That's
and
right.
in the state of Missouri, ironically, because I was the second Black person to run statewide. But in Missouri now, since we've been pushing the challenge at these positions, at every statewide election since my candidacy, we've had different candidates running for a statewide elected position, although we're in a red state and if you speaking truth to power, it's almost impossible at this point to be elected. But that has been the outcome of the kind of work that we've been doing, pushing that concept of proportionate political representation.
Go for the long game.
I want to, that's right, the long game. And I really want to express appreciation for what's been addressed, up to now around this question. And I think 2028 is that's the midterm election. And that's the one that's got people from the Republican Party really anxious. And
Now it's the 2026 is the midterm right now.
I'm sorry, 2026, but
Right, this year,
26.
and 2028 is the with all those US Senate seats up for election.
But the US Senate seat.
And you got some up now.
Yeah, but it's a thing that's even causing some fracture. Anticipating 2028 is part of what's causing some fractures within the Republican Party
Right,
now.
right.
But it's even some Republicans pushing back against this war a little bit. Against the war and other things, that prices that's going up, et cetera, and what that's going to mean moving forward. So I really want to unite with you in terms of having, to engage in those critical elections that you're talking about. But I also think that it's going to be really important for Africans to look at some of these local elections. Because part of what's happened is Steve Bannon, who is the one who really made Donald Trump's election a success and gave it some definition and what have you, and is a major force that people don't see that much because he's not that much in the public arena. That is where we would see him. But he's having conferences and stuff like that all around the country and around the world, helping to shape the politics. He is building an army of forces that's not that visible. And what they have determined is that they're going to win elections in part because they're going to be winning these local elections that makes the decisions about who is a legitimate voter. Where the polls are going to be placed in different places throughout the country, etc. Now, in Florida, they made rules that you can't even pass water to somebody standing in a line. Bannon is the one who's pushing all of that neutralizes the African vote. So we got to be there making that contest as well. We got to control precincts, et cetera. And that's the thing that I really, I would hope that we give some thought to, as well. So this is a really important moment in history. And in many ways, Carmen Zaki, I think this is our time. And I think it's our time too, because it's pushing us, hopefully, into a recognition that we're gonna have to do this on our own. That Democrats ain't gonna do it for us any more than they did it, if they've ever done it in the past. They double-crossed us at every instant. Children, Hayes compromise, Republicans, Democrats get together. Republicans, the Democrats supposed to be the good guys now, but then it was clear the Democrats were working, with the slaveocracy, et cetera. So we have to be able to grow our own power and wield it. That requires organization, more than just ideas, but organization, and et cetera. So, and I wanted to say one of the things that we should really benefit from, and I think it requires us to do a little research, and that's SNCC. I truly believe that the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, there's this bridge between just anti-racist civil rights and anti-colonial Black power. And when you look at this history, we mentioned it was SNCC that brought Malcolm into Selma. Selma, of course, Malcolm had influenced us, but SNCC brought him into Selma. It was SNCC in the form of James Foreman, who went to what's the name of the church?
Riverside.
So King had just been murdered, like a year before, and took the Black
Manifesto.
The Black Manifesto that talked about reparations. It was SNCC that did the Summer Project in Mississippi. It was SNCC that was a primary force in developing COFO and the Black Panther Party, what came to be known as the Black Panther Party in Lowndes County, Alabama. And that's influenced so much stuff that we look at. The Black Panthers that happened in Oakland. SNCC was, a part of that process. And I think it's really important because they've erased SNCC. And the thing that was critical about SNCC, from my view, not only was its philosophy, but it organized with the people. It was on the ground. And when you had SCLC and King would come in, they make a lot of speeches and stuff, raise money and bounce out of town. But when they left town, them white people were gonna kill and mess up or hurt a lot of black people who they left behind. But SNCC was there. SNCC stayed there. And they went to some of the most dangerous places in this country, places that the NAACP, SCLC wouldn't go, and SNCC was there. And I just think that we need to, and they've been erased from public memory. And I was struck by that just the other day when somebody in our own movement said they never heard of SNCC until they heard me mention it. You know, so they heard NAACP and they might have heard of SCLC. And of course, in St. Louis, you can't get around the fact the Urban League is everywhere. But SNCC, people don't know about it. And but it was the thing that took us to the people. Right. And that's the fundamental issue.
Let me, I want to raise two things. One is the recognition of the fact that organizations go through phases. SNCC went through at least 4 different iterations. The early phases of SNCC, it's what the chairman has just described in terms of living with the people and being shock troopers, frontline. I want to, however, point out the fact that when in 1965, after the success of the Julian Bond special election, and we became the Atlanta Project, the Atlanta Project was always a tangential body to the formal official organization of SNCC. In fact, after we wrote the position paper calling for Black leadership, Black self-determination, Black sovereignty, Black leadership of the organization, and white allyship being subject to Black leadership on Black issues, we were driven out of the organization. The project was dismantled, the staff members were fired, and a campaign check that had accidentally been sent to the Vine City office, and which we held to force the Central Committee of the official organization to allow us to make a presentation with regard to the position paper, were threatened with jail, that we would be arrested if we did not turn the check over to them. SNCC did not readily come into, and in fact, when Kwame adopted the call, because he was one of the first to resist it, when he was presented as chairman with a copy of the position paper, he pitched the paper across the floor, saying that we were crazy, that we were trying to destroy SNCC. The New York Times published a portion of the paper chastising and challenging SNCC to repudiate the paper and the position that we in addition to that was another point that I was going to make, in addition to being driven out of the organization, that it was, the SNCC had not officially adopted the Black Power position, even when Kwame and Cleve and them, and Cortland, I referred to them at points as the DC Mafia, the Howard students who were co-founders of SNCC, when he and Mukasa, Willie Ricks, made the cry for Black Power on the Meredith March. And it's only been in more recent years, particularly when Kwame wrote the book with Chuck Hamilton entitled Black Power, and recognized it as a mechanism to distinguish himself from Martin Luther King, and to be that controversy that the media demands for commercial purposes, that that the principle was popularized. So it wasn't. In fact, I don't think the Central Committee ever officially adopted a Black Power position. Although there are people, Cleve Sellers, and in particular Judy Richardson, who did the Eyes on the Prize with the Hamilton brother. Um, they presented, but we have to be careful and be mindful of the difference between the mythology of organizations and the actual factual history of organizations and of our people. And while SNCC gets credit for Black Power, it was not a Black Power organization.
Sure. Yeah, I want to appreciate that. I didn't bring up Stokely Starmichael or
Yeah, right.
anything like that. And
Right.
because those contradictions I know existed, like inside SNCC, when, the different iterations. I mean, I see Stokely, I just talked to Jane, to James Foreman. What did he say about me? What did he say about me? That would be the response I would get. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
I know those contradictions existed up inside the organization. And when I say up inside the organization, I mean, there are people, for example, in Vine City.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the name of the comrades who, when they would see us doing the work, and say, "Oh, you're still coming to the colony," because we maintained the whole concept of colonialism, and these were significant forces in Vine City. But this was during the time. What's the comrades that
Bill Ware was the director. I think
Be aware.
yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't Ware that I'm talking about now, although
Malcolm Suber.
yeah, Suber. And I remember, we were involved in the struggle around Desi Woods there, and Suber stood up on the platform and said that somebody white's going to have to be in this meeting, even if it's Rockefeller. I mean, so, and I'm talking about, I knew these contradictions existed, but I think that SNCC created this thing. And even as these internal contradictions existed inside SNCC, it was distinguishable, nevertheless, from what was traditional civil rights movement and as an entity, as a whole. So it's like, anyway, I don't want to stop people from, I don't want to disrupt the agenda, but I recognize that, and generally speaking, yeah, I do recognize that. Yeah.
Well, I'm not
I
just
just
saying
want,
that to you. I'm saying that's a part of our maturation as a people. Because one of the things that happens is that when folk, especially new people, come to an organization or to a movement, they have a TV vision of what it's supposed to be like, and all the sweetness in life, and the fact that there is internal struggle that brings us to that sharpen. What is it? Iron sharpens.
Sure.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that process of development is critical, and understanding it is essential to our development, especially in this moment that we're in, because there's a lot of struggling going on around what are the next steps that we ought to be taking.
I think Vine City is what we are involved in right now. That's Vine City. If anybody should read that Vine City document, and if you do, and you're familiar with us, you'll see that's what's being carried
Yeah,
out
I
now.
agree.
Yeah.
You all have done more with that than any other group. It's a tribute to the movement, to the Uhuru movement, and the members of the Atlanta Project. And I would call attention to the fact that there are no names on the paper, and that there is the reason for that is because it is a function of group process, is a product of group process.
Uhuru, I just want to give a brief update. Brother Seifu, just one of the comment or question that we have, they were asking about plebiscites and developing plebiscites. And also just to let people know we're going to be coming up soon on the call for resources. So we have about 2 or 3 more minutes for this particular section. And then I just want to just say one thing that, because the voting for the lesser of two evils that, too many in our community has embraced, I feel that just really weakens us. And that's one thing we also have to abandon that way of thinking. And that's another reason why I'm so appreciative of the electoral campaign school, because sometimes if you are with a group of people, if you're with more people and more people are doing the right thing, it gives you the courage to do the right thing as well. Uhuru. Can anybody speak to the issue of plebiscites?
Mm. Well, the term plebiscite, what is what is a plebiscite? A plebiscite is a referendum, and what is a referendum? Is a poll. I think that when we have an agenda, different jurisdictions have different mechanisms for general public input. And I think anytime that there is an opportunity for input, that we must seize it and use it to our own ends. However, in order to do that, we have to have an agenda. In this case, the 19 points of the Black is Back Coalition is an agenda which can be embraced. Then on a local level, it may be applicable or translatable on a local level, or there has to be a conference for polling and obtaining the input of local people on generally broad a combination of issues or single issues. So I always encourage letting the local people decide.
Thank you. And before going into, do we have the PowerPoint presentations up? Because we're getting ready to, as I like to say, make it rain, but the time to raise resources, because as we know, freedom is not free, and there's no better way to spend the colonizers' dollar, these dead presidents, in my opinion, than for the Black liberation struggle. So we definitely have to raise funds. But one of the things that I also just want to add to this discussion is that just being involved with the Uhuru movement, I could not know how things were going to be. And I would just sometimes see things unfold before my eyes that was such a learning experience for me. And one of them was with the when they came after, our chairperson, Amalia Shatella, and our comrades, and the decision that was made in terms of how they were going to fight this. They fought it very open. They were in the public with it. They told everything that the prosecutor was going to do. They communicated that to everybody. And also the political ideology that I really saw the strength of the political ideology that governed the Uhuru movement, or as the chairman always says, you have to have the science. And I know that the government came hard after them, and they came hard after people. And I was just expecting all these people to just turn and that the government could get all these witnesses, because we know they use intimidation and bribes to get people to do it. But they could get no one. And I do know of at least 2 people that I know personally that they went after, but they could get no one, even though they put up $10 million and all that kind of stuff. I think that's just that speaks to the strength of the Uhuru movement and to the strength of having a strong internal political ideology that you're operating from, instead of sitting at the colonizers' table and voting for the lesser of two evils. So I just wanted to add that to it. Now, could you bring up the slide again about for resources, and anybody wants to help me in here with raising these resources? We have a goal of $500 today, and everybody can go to lunch. If anybody has $500 right now that they just want to go bam and pledge it. Anybody?
I see Sister Belinda Parker Brown's hand is raised, so I guess she's
Oh, I
on.
didn't know she was on. Sister Belinda, you came in?
If you are in the room, inside your folder, you have a pledge card. I'm asking that you please fill out that pledge card with your donation. I will pick it up. I have a basket here in my hand that has pins in it. Would be happy to give you a pin so that you may do that. And again, our goal is $500. You can also cash app us at $BIBCOA. Cash app again is $BIBCOA. You can also go to our website, go to the Black is Back website and click the donate button. That's www.blackisbackcoalition.org/donate. It should pop a little screen up where you can fill that out. And I want to start by thanking Comrade Bakari for $25.
Woo, 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 woo. You know what? I'll match him. I'll match him with that 25. And I really love the Cash App because it's so fast. You don't even have time to think about it. You just send that Cash App and it's gone. So I like that.
20
So,
from
Linda, you're in the room with us?
President General Zaki Baruti. 25 from Comrade Emmanuel. Uhuru. Again, all right, Penny Hess, Comrade Penny Hess, 50, Uhuru.
Woo, 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 woo.
There's 50 as well.
And again, you have the Cash App.
Jesse.
You that's $BIBCOA.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, MQ just said she'll send 20.
All right, MQ 20, Uhuru.
Right. Belinda Parker Brown, she said she'll send 30. Is there any way that she can be elevated onto the panel? Because I see her in the chat.
This Cash App.
$BIBCOA.
Right. Can we bring Sister Belinda Parker Brown up on?
We're working on it.
Okay, great. Do we have another slide? Because also membership is so important. Human resources are really the most valuable resource that I believe any organization can have. So do we have the more to this presentation so we can show people membership stuff, or if not, just
Lisa, yeah, that's right. It's so important for everybody
my sister. Now see, now I feel complete.
to
Now I
go
know you're
on
gonna
the
do it.
Black
So take
is
it away.
Back Coalition. That's right. Y'all come on, let's raise these resources so we can keep it moving. I'm coming in just a little late, but I'm right on time for what we're doing right now. And that is raising the resources and reaching out for everyone to join up with the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and
And
Reparations.
reparations. Like membership for an individual membership, it's $25. I think do we have that slide to present? The
Yes.
engineer. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. Individual membership, $25. Organizational membership, if you're international, $200. If you're
Yes.
national, $150. And if you're state, local, or provincial, that's $50. And we want to grow. We want to grow this coalition. We have to grow it. It's a must. The times demand it. And we want more people internationally, nationally, all over.
You know,
Because-
Lisa, when you say grow the membership, I'm telling you, if it's ever been a time for people to get involved, I know that it's a lot of people that's out there doing this work, but they're doing it along, Lisa. And what we're saying is that the Black is Back Coalition is where they need to be connected with right now. You know, on an international level, on a local level, on a national level. You know, we have that. I think for international is $200. People, that is, you know, hey, that is peanuts compared to what, you know, you will receive being a part of the Black is Back Coalition. I don't know if we, you know, individual membership,
But when as an individual membership, we have all these phenomenal working groups as an individual that you can connect with, that's doing some powerful work, that you can take back into your communities as well and do.
Right.
So,
Do we have the slide for the working groups? And Brother Kabula, thank you so much for the engineers. We got to really thank them, and Sister Ikenge. We got to thank. Let me tell you, this does not happen without the dedication of people like Sister Ikenge. I don't know how she does it. I know she is. I'm always forgetting titles.
she's a superwoman.
Yes, but she works so closely with the chairman, who I know has a busy schedule, but she puts in the work and the dedication. We must thank her. Brother Kabula, the engineer, yes, we thank you so much. We thank you because we can't do it without you. So the working groups, the political prisoners working group, the healthcare working group, that's one of the ones I'm with. The outreach working group, you're going to hear from Brother Nkululeko, who's always reminding me, Lisa, we got to go for membership. Go for membership of these organizations as well. That you want to be a part of the Black is Back Coalition. We have the Political Action Working Group, another working group that I'm working with, working on, and that working group helps to come up with strategy and with also informing the coalition about various campaigns, like various issues and maybe political campaigns that are going on, and also would help to do things like help to formulate positions and statements about various issues going on. That's what we want to grow the Political Action Working Group. And then there's Reparations, who we'll be hearing from Brother Dawood, and the Youth and Student. Man, we can't do it without the youth and student, because they're going to be the ones that this is going to be left to handle. That's just how it goes. And we want to make sure we have strong youth and students. We're going to be hearing from Brother Emmanuel, the Political Education Working Group. And then we have the Media and Social Media Working Group. People, we need more folks on the Media and Social Media Working Group. And then Education and Black Community Control of the Police, Sister Belinda Parker Brown. Take it away. Tell them.
Oh, Sister Lisa, I want to take some time to thank some people, but
sure.
it's for $100. Our chairman Omali used to tell us for $100. Tabula, 50, Sister Saeed, $20, and Comrade Janice Kent, $75. And I'm gonna add up in a minute. I think we're over 500 already.
Wow, super. That's what we're
Yes.
talking about. Get the resources out the way, people. We don't have to spend a lot of time, because we know that the importance of this great work that's being done through the Black is Back Coalition. We're excited about it, Lisa. And that's the reason why we want people to join up. Individual members, we welcome you. But most importantly, we want you to bring your organizations and your on an international level, on a national level, on your local and state level, so you can be a part of a powerful group, a powerful coalition that's moving and shaking across this world, people. I know that we have to unite and come together, and we're going to talk some more about that, Lisa, the power of joining up with the Black is Back Coalition.
Oh, yes. And we know people have so much on their plate. Sometimes it's hard for some people to even breathe. We know that. But and we appreciate every dollar or every dime or every 5 minutes, whatever time people can give, because that is so important. But this is also going to require us to reorient how we think about things. I'll say this real closely. One of the things that really struck me so much was listening to Frederick Douglass's it wasn't called the autobiography of Frederick Douglass. I mean, he wrote several books, but one of them he wrote, and it was the audio version of this book that really told day to day, gave intimate details of what it was like to be enslaved. And one of the things that really struck me was that people who were enslaved, they had no control over their time, no matter what, and they were forced with the crack of a whip, forced to work from sun up until whenever the damn enslaver told them to stop. They had no control over it. They had to work whether they were sick and all of that kind of stuff. And it made me think that if our ancestors had to do all of that, for the white man with the crack of a whip, then I can change and help me to change my whole perspective on time and what I could do for the liberation struggle with my own time. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
just
about
want to
that.
thank some more people. Kitty, I didn't get your. All right, great, 20. Who was I wanted to thank? Thank you, Kitty. Linda, $20, and Monica, $20. Thank you. So, just to say that we have raised $605.
How much?
Today, we need to raise $1,000.
Oh, but how much did you say we just raised?
$605. 605.
Oh, okay. Woo, woo,
So,
woo, woo, woo.
So people,
no,
don't be afraid, there's still time to give, the date isn't yet, and there's Kumba with 25, and I have not gone to the website, so I don't know what's there yet, so that, what I think we should do now is it's lunchtime. Want to give people some instructions for lunch, and there's Wendy, 45. So, we're well over 500, so we're getting closer to 1,000. There's still time to give. Go to $BIBCOA, which is our Cash App. Go to the Black is Back website, www.blackisbackcoalition.org/donate. You can always send a check or a money order if you like. Don't forget to join. While you're giving,
you
give to join as well.
Sister Kenya, I love telling my personal story, and maybe I have a chance to do that. But I want people to realize that, it wasn't until I came to the Black is Back Coalition that put me on the right track of really understanding the work that I do in the community, and also the power of unity and the power of having a group of people that we're working with across this country. The Black is Black Coalition, I know that we have over 17 different organizations working together. I know that we're in different states and different countries. So, people, that is powerful. That is powerful, especially when you are coming into the real knowledge and the real truth about what this work is really all about. So you can't do this alone. You need to join up and be a part of what this is a movement. This is a movement, people. You need to join up and be a be a part of a powerful movement that is changing the world right now. It's bringing people out of that complacency, or out of that, I want to say, brainwash. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but the chairman might can fix it right, because, I was running around here thinking that, these people were for me, trying to be a part, trying to get with this party and that party, and thinking that, you can be a Democrat and a Republican, and you got this and that, but the real truth is, got me focused on the wrong thing, talking about racism and all this kind of stuff, and putting us against each other, putting one group against another group, when it's all about, the bottom line is that we were being colonized. We've been colonized, people. So we want, it wasn't until I came to the Black is Back Coalition, really understood what was really going on. So, that's what it's time for us to know the truth.
Thank you, Sister Belinda. And I want to thank Sister Lisa Davis for her contribution of $25, and Sister Betty Davis for $100. And we are on the clock when we come back from lunch. And again, as I said, I haven't checked the BIB website yet for what's there. But keep giving. We are going to take a break for lunch. We'll have an hour and 15 minutes.
Right, so it's almost right. So it's 2:02 Eastern Standard Time. It's 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. So please be back by, if you're Central Standard Time, be back by 2 o'clock, and Eastern Standard Time, be back by 3 o'clock. And if you're on the West Coast, I cannot figure out the time in my my head, comes when you should be back, but within 1 hour. Also, I want to say it's so interesting because I can see
Hour and
myself
15 minutes. Sister Lisa, an hour and 15 minutes.
an hour and 15 minutes. Okay,
1
so come
hour,
back in
15
an
minutes.
hour and 15 minutes. So that'll be
Time.
two, right? That'll be 2:15 Eastern Standard Time and 1:15 Central Time. And we're on the West Coast.
2:15 Central Standard Time, it'll be 3:15 Eastern Standard Time, and 1:15 Pacific Time.
Right.
Yeah, and come on back. Don't y'all, go eat and come back.
That's
some
right.
more-
We know where you live.
Come back to some more of this knowledge and some more of this very powerful information that we all need. This is
That's right. If you're on the East Coast, I'm coming
right.
for you if you don't come back. I'll tell you right now. If you're in the Northeast.
come back, come back, come back.
Okay,
Eat and
great.
come back.
We'll see everybody in an hour and 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Oh, Janice Cancer, she just donated 75. Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Woo! Yes,
Woo-hoo!
indeed.
I don't know how to read this menu thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's, we really don't.